Hey Alpha fam, Coach Jam here with another market update. Before we begin, I do want to say that nothing in these videos is financial advice. Everything's for educational purposes only. It's just my own analysis on the market. Also, if you're new to the Alpha Syndicate channel, if you could please give us a like, comment, and a subscribe. We really do appreciate the support. So let's get into the market, guys. So we know that the market's shown some strength over the last couple of weeks, but what we keep having is the same thing that we've kind of been having over the last week or so, which are just a ton of conflicting reports. And what essentially happens is the markets start to pump on these news reports that there is actually going to be a peace deal in the Middle East. And then what ends up essentially happening is something happens like today, for instance. We get these reports like J.D. Vance has now planned trip to Pakistan's now on hold after Iran failed to respond. And what this does is it's causing a bit of volatility in the markets. And there's a couple things I'm looking at. All right. One, as you can see, this was a clear uptrend. One, we definitely lost on the 4-hour, how this thing failed to make a new higher high. So we would have to say that there is a little bit of concern there with it being kind of a break of structure. Well, I do think that there is a possibility, especially if something doesn't get like an actual ceasefire, something doesn't happen, or if they start bombing, because Trump has made plenty of these type of threats over the last few days. Then I want to see what happens when we come back down. If we hold the 50 like we did right here, that's going to be really bullish. And if we can bounce off that, I think what's happening right now is a lot of people are adding shorts. But on the bear case, and one thing you cannot ignore is, I mean, this thing does look like a massive bear flag. It does look like it has the possibility of breaking down. And what we would like to see is two things. All right. If we do not hold this 50 and we break below it, what the next level I want to see is what do we do or how do we react right here? Is this thing going to break down? Are we going to lose this level? And if we do, if this thing comes up and rejects again, that's your kind of indication that most likely we are going to go lower and we are probably going to swipe out some of these lows. And this is why having those limit orders set are so important. I've been getting flooded with DMs from guys like, asking what should I do? Should I be buying? Blah, 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 blah. Because they see the market going. So you start to get FOMO because you don't want to be left in the dust either. You don't want to not take advantage of levels, because if we do in fact start to break out, what will end up happening is most of these tokens will do a 2-3x from their floors very, very fast. And a lot of people want to get that first move, but this is also where you don't want to catch a falling knife. So you kind of want to wait for confirmation, guys. And I'm watching kind of things slowly. I've obviously have my limit order set. I really would like to see if Bitcoin comes back down, all right, guys, and comes back down here and pushes off this 50, that will be really bullish. If it loses it, what we don't want to see happen is that we start losing these levels and then we start flushing out longs and then we start to push down pretty aggressively, guys. Regardless, I'm watching both of these kind of scenarios pretty closely right now, and this all kind of hinders on what announcements we get from the Middle East. And I think a big reason why we're showing so much strength, even in the face of all of what's been going on, has been more than anything is liquidity, guys. I mean, they just printed another $11.82 billion. Obviously, QE is 100% here. They are definitely printing. We also have to understand that just a few weeks from now, we have a new Fed guy coming in. This Fed guy is going to come in, I think, with the full understanding, with intentions of pushing more QE, but not just that, but also getting these rates lowered, lowering interest rates, bringing things down, pushing the economy, getting more prepared for midterms. That's why I also don't think that, even though we're having some conflicting reports from the Middle East today, I don't think that this is something that sustains for a long period of time. I think Trump wants to actively figure out some type of resolution to this. I don't think he wants to continue this because of simple, guys, this. Like today, everything else is in the red. We have oil. But when I said this just a couple of videos ago, I said we need to see what happens when it comes back up to the 50. All right, guys, you see how we're rejecting right now? That's what we want. We don't want this thing to break higher. We want this thing to reject from the 50, do a bearish retest of it, and then push down further. And we want to see oil, and hopefully if they come out with some type of ceasefire or some type of announcement, because that's what happened yesterday, guys. Markets were starting to bleed, and then all of a sudden they start getting reports of a ceasefire, and they're talking, and then all of a sudden, 12 hours later, a lot of that gets reversed because now they're saying, oh, it's not true, and then you're going to get a lot of this stuff, and then you have to understand how market makers work, guys. They're going to chase liquidity. So if they have these news articles, always remember, price makes narrative. All right. So if they can get a narrative, they are going to move and utilize that narrative to move prices to be able to flush out both longs and shorts. They're going to hunt liquidity both ways, guys. And understanding and knowing that allows you to be able to play the market a little bit better, allows you to be a little bit more prepared in your purchases, and getting prepared what I do think is the breakout from the bear market into the next bull. that will occur this year. Whether we start doing it, like I said, we could have the time frame where, hey, in May, we start to move. Or we could, still chop sideways for a while. We could even do another flush. Bitcoin could even potentially come down even further. It might even break the 60s. Who knows? But regardless, I still think by the end of this year, going into Q4, markets are way higher prices than they are now. And people that are active in the market and taking advantage of this stuff now are going to be the ones that actually prosper and win. It's just simple as that, guys. So with that being said, we want to look at TradFi markets. We know that TradFi markets have been absolutely exploding. They're all in price discovery. You've got futures, S&P 500, NASDAQ. You've got S&P 500. You've even got the Russells. It's in price discovery. So you have all these things in price discovery right now. And you could even see the rotation. So the reason I even talk about Russell 2000 is it shows the rotation from the safer stocks to the more risk-on stocks. And the Russell 2000 are basically a basket of stocks that are considered higher risk than the basket of stocks that are inside of something like the S&P 500. So it shows that there is a risk appetite coming into the markets. And again, it rotates down the risk curve. These are just giving us early signs that early signs that when these markets start to explode, shortly after, you start seeing crypto. Because again, it goes down the risk curve, the liquidity rotates. We know that crypto is it's a liquidity sponge, guys, as simple as that. And watching all these things kind of happen, as long as we can get a resolution in the Middle East sometime soon, all right, coming in with this new Fed guy, I think we're setting ourselves up for a very, very, very high probability that these markets are at significantly higher prices later this year. With that being said, guys, one thing I always like to look at is USDT dominance, and we talked about this just a few. Matter of fact, I won't even erase. Look at the picture I drew. This was days ago when I made this video. I hadn't even had a chance to erase it. Look at how I drew this, guys. I said this is what I would expect this thing to come down, push back up. We want to see what happens at the 50-day. We want to see a bearish retest, a rejection, and then a push down. And if we do that, then there's an either higher probability that this actual top is probably in, and then we can see some more relief. This thing could go down. I'm not saying we're not going to go straight vertical from here. And I think there's going to be chop along the way. You could even expect this thing to maybe even fake out and start going back up at one point. All right, guys? But as long as we can start maintaining below this 50-day EMA, this is a more higher probability that the USDT dominance has lost its uptrend and is starting to create a new downtrend. And these things take time to form out, guys. These things take months. Bull markets don't happen in one day. Bear markets don't happen in one day. And they take time to transition out of. So people, that's where bottom formations happen. This is why you set those limit orders and you get prepared. With that being said, guys, want to look at Bitcoin dominance. This thing has been obviously on it's been ripping, to be honest with you guys. If you look at Bitcoin dominance right now, take a look, back this thing up. It's way higher than I actually expected, but Bitcoin's been performing really well, and so have alts. So you can't really hate on it because alts have also been performing well as well. And we're starting to get into that major area of rejection where we've rejected every time before. And then you can see on the weekly, we did close above this. This is actually the first confirmed close above the weekly that we've had, and since when we lost this back in August of 25. So this isn't something to fade, but what I would like to see is this. This thing is also coming into a major area of resistance, and by the end of this week, this thing rejects, and this is just a quick deviation above, and then this thing starts to push down, because then alts will start to come alive, especially if we get some type of resolution. I expect alts to start moving pretty quick, especially the ones that are really, really focused on solving a couple of problems, especially the ones that, focused on stablecoin protocols, TradFi narratives, even a lot of these prediction markets. There's, some specific narratives that I think are going to do extremely well, and some L1s that support those narratives. And if you take this serious, guys, and if this is the first time you've ever seen one of my videos, my name's Coach Jam. I've been a digital asset investor for over 5 years. I'm the founder of Alpha Syndicate, and I host all the Crypto Talk workshops inside of Capital Club. And if you want to learn this stuff, guys, if you want to understand how we connect the macro, the fundamentals, and technical analysis together, if you want a place where you can get coached and mentored by somebody like me, click the link below, guys. We'll see you inside.